Okay, well, we're back for Bringers of the Dawn book club meeting. Today is April 2nd, 2025, and I'm here with Jaya and Sirisha, and today we'll be discussing chapter 16. And before we get into it, though, I'd like to do our group meditation. So if everyone would take your meditation posture that you like. And we'll just do it for a few minutes, just 10 minutes maximum, but all meditating together to get the energy circulating and flowing among all the participants, remembering our oneness. It's one thing I like about a group meditation. When I feel the energy of the other people, it reminds me of our oneness. So it's special. Okay. So please close your eyes and sit in a comfortable upright position. Take a deep breath in, exhale. Take a deep breath in, exhale. Breathe normally. Keep your awareness on your breath, while at the same time being aware of any energies that are flowing through you. These are the energies that are connecting us now. 30 more seconds, friends. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When you're ready, please place the palms of your hands open over your eyes. Go ahead, open your eyes and look at your palms. Okay, that was a good meditation. Okay, so this evening we are going to discuss Heretics Ahead of Time, chapter 16 in the book. I've read this chapter several times, and I'm going to say it's filled with lots of great ideas. I didn't know where to stop. So there's only a couple of sections that I decided I wouldn't read. So it'll be a lot of reading today. But it's a short chapter, so we'll be fine. So the Pleiadians say the 60s were a time of preparation. They held your initial awakening and were a time that showed you that new paradigms could be born. During that decade, you suddenly became far removed from the values of previous generations. The 60s were full of events such as the movement for peace and the movement for expression of the body, which supported looking at the body and accepting and sharing sexuality with full consciousness, with clothes off, rather than by finding body parts between layers of clothes, which is what generations before did. Consciousness was birthed and the idea of peace and freedom was awakened. That was kindergarten. I like that phrase. That was kindergarten. That was kindergarten. What are we doing now? That's what I want to know. I wonder if we graduated to first grade yet, or maybe it would be nice to think we might be in middle school. So it's a question for you to think about. Um, the Pleiadians say the 90s are the time to bring the movement of spirituality onto the planet, not just in small pockets, but onto the entire planet, right? So this is 30 years ago. And I'm remembering very clearly back to the 1990s, 30 years ago. The planet was awakening and is awakening all over. We travel the planet and can tell you that you have your counterparts in every corner of the globe. The team of light that you represent made sure that they covered all their bases because there are light workers everywhere. You are coming into your own. I like to remember that too. It's nice to remember when you're out in the world and you're working with people. Remember, you're part of this team of light. Bring the light to where it's needed. I usually bring it to people who ask for it. Sometimes somebody will ask me for some light. It's amazing to get this kind of a request. And then I feel free to give it. But until then, especially at work, I kind of hesitate with stuff, because you got to have a professional demeanor. But when somebody asks for it, it's it's free, Now you give it freely. So that happens to me sometimes. The movement towards spirituality is a movement away from materialism. Over the last number of years, many people have gotten very into their bodies, regenerating them, exercising them, and making them more beautiful. That has simply been preparation so that you could move into spirit. The realm of spirit is a very exciting place. It has more flexibility. There are places to travel and great adventures to be had, and there are no limitations. So I want to just say one thing about this. They talk about the body and they talk about spirituality, and I'd like to remember that the spiritual aspect and the mental aspect and the physical aspect are all together and aren't separable at this time where we are currently. Okay. So I like to think that the physical body is an expression of the soul or the spiritual nature that we have. Okay. So I like to think that it's not different than or distinct from or separate than, but it's really part of the oneness that we are. And not say it's spirit body here and a physical body here. That's my interpretation that I love to have. So I just wanted to share that with you. The Pleiadians say the reason physical reality has been so frustrating for you is because you bought the stories about its limitations. Hook, line, and sinker. This is a super important sentence in this chapter, right? I think everybody has felt frustrated from time to time with the idea of limitation. You can't do this, it's prohibited, that's not allowed. And you feel frustrated in your ability to express yourself. Well, who made the law that said that's not allowed? You know, if you don't agree with it, you're a creator. You can do anything you want. Keep that in mind. We are subject only to what we hold in mind. If you say that's not for me, you just removed a limitation that you had put on yourself. So keep that in mind. You're always free to discard it. The Pleiadians say you bought these limitations because you had made an agreement to do so. It was part of your plan to buy into these limitations so that you could relate to those who have no idea about light and who have been buying into the limitations for their whole existence. And you are going to electromagnetically alter the planet, rewire it so that all these other beings can be plugged into it once again. You can only do this if you can relate to where they are. If you had come here with your memory banks open, either you would not have wanted to stay, or you would not now understand the others. So you've been submerged in a society that has been without light, and you have forgotten your light for or vaguely remembered it as you grew up so that you could relate to that world. And now it is time for you to integrate that world of society into the multidimensional world of light and spirit that you represent. Okay. So they're saying that we intentionally came here on this mission to experience the sense of limitation that others experience so we can understand people. And when they come to us and say, please help me, I'm in darkness, we relate to that. We understand where they're coming from because we've seen the contrast. We know the light, but we've also seen the darkness ourselves. Imagine how difficult it would be to help someone who came and said, please help me, I don't see the light. I only see darkness. If you only ever saw light, you wouldn't even know what they were talking about, and you wouldn't even know where to begin to help them. So this is a really interesting point they say about how we volunteered to experience this so we can help others. Okay, Pleiadians say Heretics are ahead of their time. So that's us. We're the heretics, right? Heretics are the rules busters, the people with novel ideas, and everybody says, you're crazy. Wow, you must be absolutely out of your mind. Right? So that's who we are. The heretical ideas that come onto the planet always prove to be brilliant later. So have courage. It only seems as if these new ideas are being ridiculed. You must remember that there's much activity in the non-physical realms to assist you, and that even though each of you has your own blueprint and plan to evolve into, you're part of a global blueprint and global consciousness, and you're firing that global blueprint and awakening others. You awaken in waves as each of you learns to carry information and broadcast it. If everyone were awakened at once, it would be very chaotic. The awakening must happen as you are able to handle it, because putting too much light into an element that cannot handle it would blow a fuse. So think about that for a second. If you really understand what they mean by awakening, they say that if everyone were awakened at once, it would be very chaotic. I can relate to that. I can understand where they're coming from with that. This idea of awakening, which is, a self-realization moment, coming to know your true nature, it can be very disruptive and very unsettling for a while. And it can take a while to get your bearings again. And everything is different after that. And it takes some time to figure out how do you hold that energy. And I think it would be very chaotic, yeah, if every single person on the planet had that experience at the same time. I just wonder what the world would look like. It would be a completely different place. I think things would basically stop in their tracks and it would be chaos, as they say, you know. It would be an amazing, amazing chaos. So it's a fun thing to picture. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to continue here. The Pleiadians say we cannot emphasize enough that the nervous system is the key to open your ancient eyes and see. For you to remember who you are, where you come from, and where you are going. The nervous system must be able to take the electrical current into the body, transduce the high energy, and fit it inside the body, and let the body evolve and nurture itself on this high energy that is consciousness. And this is literally what is occurring, right? So if our body isn't healthy and the nervous system isn't functioning well, then we're going to have a lot of trouble here. And just think about our experience in this group meditation, and you feel that energy of the group coming through you. That's coming through your physical body and into your nerves. And if you couldn't channel that well, I could imagine that would cause some damage, you know? So it's interesting. Let me continue. The Pleiadians say, since you are committed carriers of light, there's a certain opening within your auric field. There's an opening that the pillar of light brings so that guardians can come down and act as gatekeepers for how much energy you can handle. Even though your intellect, your mind, and your ego may say, more, 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 The gatekeepers know that because you are a carrier of light and have committed to a certain task, you cannot be lost. Unless that is unless that is you are bent on your own personal destruction and you move past what is called the highest will into the will of yourself. So we have these gatekeepers that help to channel the correct amount of light at any moment, they're saying. Um, the gatekeepers apparently would not allow too much to come in so as to cause a damage, which I think is the phrase that you cannot be lost. We wouldn't want that to happen, right? Losing a light worker because of too much light. But they do say you always have the chance to destroy should you choose your will to act wrongly. So even though they're guarding, they can't prevent you from using your will wrongly. Let's put it that way. Not that I would want to, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but we all have a free will, and it's something to keep in mind. Okay, let me continue. The Pleiadians say, you all need one another. It is imperative that you work in harmony. If you don't work in harmony, you will create Atlantis and all of the other destructions over and over again. Harmony is required. It's true. It's absolutely true, right? I like to think about how things are going on the planet whenever I look at the news. And there's always lots and lots of disharmony in the world. And thinking about how destructive is that to our society and our like global organism, basically, that we are. Because we're not divided. I mean, there's all these divisions that we make up in our mind, right? There's an international border right here. And you can draw a line, right? And of course, the line doesn't actually exist. It's in your imagination. When you get on an airplane and you fly around, you don't see any lines drawn. And so, that's a good sign that these international borders are fictitious because you can't find them when you look around. They're nowhere, right? And so, the thought of an international border induces an us versus them mentality, right? It's separatism. Yeah, hey, we live in this country. Our country's better than your country. And all kinds of crazy thoughts come out of it, right? And then, eventually you get to really crazy stuff like wars and killing. And so this call for harmony is perfect. And and telling us to remember, hey, remember your history. What happened with Atlantis? Do you really want to do that again? Basically annihilate each other to such an extent that human civilization has to start completely over if it even can? Pleiadians say, a time is coming when many of you will be put to work with spirit to broadcast frequency and assist others in comprehending what is going on. The waves of awakening will continue, and spirit will become a way of being on this planet. That is the plan for this planet, and the creative cosmic rays from Prime Creator are hitting the fringes of your galactic system, moving here first. That is why the great gathering of energies has come here. These energies want to participate in the transformation here so that they will be prepared when it comes to their own area of galactic and universal existence. There's a huge transformation taking place. But what you do with it of course, is up to you. We have said that your world is going to split into two worlds, and that those who move with light will be in the world of light. This split is already beginning to take place. Those entities who wish to work with the higher vibratory fields that represent light, and those who wish to work with the lower vibratory fields that represent fear, darkness, chaos, control, and confusion, are beginning to polarize and choose sides. Those who work with the lower vibratory fields will say to you that you are witches or the devil because you represent something that they don't understand. You represent change, and you must remember that most people are frightened to death of change. One of the curious things about human consciousness is that it is enamored of stability. You bought the concept of that stability is something desirable, hook, line, and sinker. I really love their phrase, hook, line, and sinker. They say that when they really, really want to emphasize a point. Get this point right here. You bought the concept that stability is something desirable. That is such an ego idea. Such, right? This is just the basic survival instinct that's operative in the physical organism. But we become attached to these ideas and we identify with them. But the Pleiadians are saying, hey, we might want to take another look at that thought. Maybe, maybe it's not as great of a thought to have as we think it is, you know? The Pleiadians say, so you strive for it. You strive for this stability. You think that if you do not have stability and security, then who are you? You might not exist. You might be annihilated. One of the interesting things also they say in this paragraph is how they say that lower vibratory beings will say, "Ooh, you're a witch or you're a devil because you're doing something that's systems breaking. You are you're doing something that is so off the chart or saying something that is so contrary to an accepted norm that they'll get so angry, they'll call you a witch or a devil. And we know that this has happened in history with very bad results. Um, I'm just thinking about, like, say, Joan of Arc, you know, and she was a really, really interesting person in her day, um, fighting on the side of France for independence against British rule. And I think, I think she was so successful. Just a young girl, so successful in leading men into battle, and so successful with um, fighting tactics that she must have been absolutely in very good harmony with the divine spirit. But her enemies called her exactly that, a witch. She's a witch. You know, she's so good, she's killing us. She must be a witch, right? And that's what they called her. And eventually she was betrayed and turned over to her enemies, who then, of course, you know what they did, and it's not pleasant to think about it. But these kinds of things happen to light workers, you know? And so you gotta be ready for that. It could happen. Not saying it will, but we can look at famous stories from history and we can see that that pattern repeats itself. So, okay, let's continue. The Pleiadians say, we are talking about many people you know. Some may even be family members. You will need to develop a tremendous amount of patience and compassion for those who feel this energy and do not want to respond to it in a way that can benefit them. You're going to have to become very allowing, perhaps even allowing others to destroy themselves so that they can learn the value of life, right? So that means while we can teach others and we have a desire to help others, others have absolutely no, they're not compelled. They cannot be forced to accept any help, especially if they didn't ask for it. And so when we see situations like that, although we're compassionate and caring, we see they don't want the help. They're putting up walls. It's better to leave them alone. They're on their own path, right? Everyone has a path. They're on it and they don't want to get off of it for whatever reason. And it's better just to respect that. We'll just respect they're on their path. They're doing their thing, right? Even to the point of allowing them to destroy themselves so they can learn the value of life. That is a very, very serious statement. Um, if you've ever known someone who's committed suicide, that's an idea, right? That's the idea that you could destroy yourself. Then you know, wow, there must have been something I could have done to help this person. I should have been able to do something more or different. And you kind of take that mentality of the guilty person. I didn't do enough for my friend. Um, the Pleiadians are saying, well, you tried, but they're on their path. And ultimately, it's their choice. It's free will. And if they have to go down that path, at a certain point, you just let them go because there's nothing you can do about it, you know? Okay, Pleiadians say, even though human beings are not consciously aware of it, you know in the deepest portion of your beings that you move from one existence to another and gather experience so that your soul can understand and process data to give you a view of one reality. Someday you'll be able to scan the lives and existences of your soul and hold the energy of that soul, just like you would hold a crystal, looking at different facets and sparkles within it, and feel and know that identity. When you are able to do this with your soul will be able to connect with other forms of intelligence that it is a part of, but does not presently comprehend. Mhm. So they're saying we move from one existence to another in the deepest portion of our beings, gathering experience so we can understand better and get a view of one reality. So I think about having multidimensional existence and experiences and trying to remember that life isn't just lived through the five senses. There's also the energy flow and the feeling sense and the intuitive knowingness. There's a lot more to the human being than just the five physical senses for inputs. And that's part of our multidimensional nature is being in these other dimensions at once, pulling in that data and understanding it. How do we make sense of it? How do we live in the physical world while we have this energy flowing through and we feel energies like love and joy and we look at other people and we just love everybody. But most people don't get it. Most people don't understand it. And you can't really go around telling them that, oh, I love you because they'll think you're crazy and other bad things might happen, right? So you don't do that, but then you have to think, how do I hold this energy? How can I make the best use of it for everyone around me? And that's up to you to decide. It's kind of interesting paragraph here because those are the thoughts that some of the thoughts that I had when I read the paragraph. Um, it's also interesting to think about how the soul is analogous to a crystal with facets and sparkles, and um, and comparing it to a crystal is sort of like looking at the soul's identity. And what could the identity be but the story of a life that was lived, and how that life related to other lives that were not independent lives, but very much related, connected lives. It's very interesting. Okay, let me continue. The Pleiadians say, we are stretching you. We want you to become completely confused so that you will be energized. And then you will utilize your curiosity to take you into areas that not only have you never thought of, you never even knew existed. This is our intention, that you come to a higher ground where you can create a new order of identity courageously, with humor, and with confidence. So, this paragraph is very deep, I think. It's very deep. At first, when you read it, you might just gloss over it and think, oh, there's not much there. But the more I look at it, the more deep I think that this information is. Um, and it's only because many times I am confused. They say, we want you to become completely confused. Well, that happens to me a lot. I'm very confused a lot, even though I might not seem like I am. Sometimes I am very confused. Um, and I do have energy, and I don't know what to do with it sometimes. I don't know what to make of it. And uh, and they also talk about creating a new order of identity. So it brings up the question, what is our real identity? It can't just be, hey, I'm a person. I'm this guy named James, and I have this job, and I go to work, and I have this family, right? I mean, that's part of it, but that's just a small part of it. There's a lot more to the identity than just that. And that's something to consider and contemplate. And you can come up with the answer to that question. I'm working on it for myself. So think about it. Okay. Um, Pleiadians say all things are frequencies. If you knew how rapidly you are evolving, you might want to sit in a chair and put your hand over your head and say, I can't do it. There's too much going on for me. And you keep the veil pulled down and pretend to go about life as if nothing's happening when you're continuously being upgraded with all kinds of changes to bring you closer to the higher dimensions. Think about and feel what you're going to achieve in one lifetime. Within the next 10 to 20 years, you'll move from being dense physical creatures into creatures of light in the age of light. Can you conceive of this? Everything you're doing, including eating a pizza, is bringing you in a divinely perfect way to that place. At some point, you will understand the importance of every event in which you are participating and the integrity of the whole. So, whether we're having some mundane moment, eating pizza, which, by the way, can be pretty good when it's good. So, I actually do like eating pizza. Or if it's a high moment where something special is occurring, it's all part of the whole. We have to value everything. and not devalue something just because it seems rather mundane, but appreciate every moment that we have. Let's see. Pleiadians say, hmm, in the movie The Karate Kid, the kid is very impatient while learning karate. So I saw this movie. This is an old movie. I think it's from the 1980s. If anyone hasn't watched it, you got to see it. It's classic. Anyway, the kid is very impatient to learn karate. He finds a master and doesn't even think that he found a master. So he's looking for somebody to teach him, some old guy, and some old guy is, giving him the basic instructions, and the kid's not too happy with them. But anyway, the Pleiadians say he is given things to do, and that he thinks are a waste of time. He does not understand that each piece he learns makes up the greater whole. And you're like this kid. All the pieces are coming together, but because of the vision of your ego, you do not understand at this time that they make the greater whole. You'll be put to the task and you'll find that all you're seeking will be yours. And that's the
I
good.
smiled a lot when I read this
This
because,
is this is so amazing. What did you think of this paragraph, Zubia?
yeah, so actually, when I read it, I smiled a lot because the first time when I started doing meditation, everything, I felt the same way that I'm wasting my time and this is not going to help.
Yeah,
That this is not helping, and I am whatever I'm doing is perhaps not going to help me. So
yeah,
I felt like exactly like that Karate Kid, and I smiled a lot when I read this because you know how the path is that you don't know what you're on till you start getting it. So yeah,
yeah.
that was definitely where I was.
Well, that's really good. I like that story. I also like how they say because of the vision of your ego, you know, the ego, whenever the ego sees something, it immediately judges, good or bad, right? This is good, this is bad. It's a judgment based on limited perception, limited understanding. So many times the judgment is completely incorrect. So we judge things wrongly, habitually. And that's one of the messages I'm getting out of this. But the other message that I'm getting out of this, they say you will find that all you are seeking will be yours. This is the good news. And this is the absolute 100% truth. Everything is yours because of who you are. Okay? All are connected. No one is truly separate. You might think your ego idea thinks you're separate. Oh, I'm a separate entity. But you're not. The truth is, if you are part of everything, then everything is yours. It can't be otherwise, you know? So that's another way to look at this.
To
Are you?
me, I think about when I read this, I felt like I am in two different aspects of this meditation, book club, and the spiritual tablets and hosting, and all of these pieces are independent, but they'll that's what I connected after reading this paragraph.
You realize that it's interconnected,
It is,
right?
they are all interconnected. All these pieces are coming together.
Yeah.
But the main thing that pulls it together is patience and belief.
Mhm.
So you see, what I was like, I'm like that kid. I had neither had the patience nor the belief. So I had to change. I had to first change myself and then bring the belief and then with the patience glue all this together. So I think it starts by you deciding to change. And when you decide to change, that's when the magic happens.
That's it. Where there is a will, there is a way. You should
Yes.
decide and be determined.
Yes.
Yeah. Change. That's what people fear, right? But change can help. It can be very helpful. I agree. Okay, let me continue. Pleiadians say, be aware and learn how to recognize when your will is usurping the divine will and the divine plan, when you are forcing too much onto yourself because you are not operating out of common sense. So I think this is an interesting question. How could you possibly know whether your will is usurping divine will and the divine plan? And I'll say this. This is how I think I might sometimes know if I'm forcing a situation, if I'm trying to force an outcome rather than being detached and accepting of what happens, especially when it's already now. If I'm not accepting of the present moment, but I'm angry about something or judgmental about something, this for me would be a sign that I'm trying to usurp the divine will. But even so, it's not possible. You get very you could get very frustrated and very angry. But how does that help you? It doesn't help you. I've never had that help me at all, ever. Acceptance, on the other hand, has helped me a lot. Acceptance of what is has helped me tremendously. So I usually try and operate from that position, which I think is always in alignment with divine will. How could it not be, you know? Okay. The Pleiadians say, look at yourself in the mirror and see how you look. Look into your eyes because your eyes are an indicator for your whole physical body. Are they clear? Are you able to look back with clarity? Is your face lined or exhausted or calm? How does your body feel? Are you able to sit in a serene position? Are you able to hold your body erect? Or do you feel the need to slump? Do you fidget because you cannot hold energy in your body? So your body's always dancing and twitching because it doesn't know what to do. Are your fingers always drumming? Are you gnawing at your flesh? There are many indications to watch for, and you can look around and see who cannot integrate energy. So those are some physical signs of maybe not being at peace, right? And I think that's kind of interesting to think about. Pleiadians say once you bring this energy into your body and are able to hold it, your body will begin to feel a lightness. There will be a vitality in your skin or perhaps your hair. Your hair is a very good indication of your health. Common sense, of course, is one of your best comrades to hang around with. Common sense will show you what is right and what is not. I would personally replace the words common sense with the words intuitive sense. Intuitive sense is your best comrade, and it will show you what's right and what's not. And I want to make that distinction because common sense is for me, it's in the realm of egoic mind thinking, the attachment to the body, the identification with the body. That's common sense in the way I know it. But I really think that they meant having an intuitive sense, which is the wider world of wisdom. Okay. So when I read that, I thought it would be an improvement if we change that word. Um, Pleiadians say at times you will recognize that the energy has become too much and that you are not calm and centered. This will occur for each and every one of you at some point. In some way, you will feel as if too much is happening. There will be too much data to compute, too many people to talk to, too much going on. And when this happens, think of yourself as an appliance and just unplug yourself. I've had to do that a lot of times, getting caught up in other people's stories, and lots of people ride emotions, and they try to pull you in. And that happens, right? I mean, it happens to all of us, and it can be so draining. And I gotta unplug. I just gotta say, you know what? I'm sorry. I have to go now. And then I go to my room and I close the door and I sit down and I just unplug. And they continue with their whatever it is. All right. Let me continue now. Pleiadians say when you go to a Chinese restaurant, you eat Chinese food. You don't order a hamburger. When you go to an Italian restaurant, you order lasagna. This restaurant called Earth has a physical body, and so that's how you must operate here within a physical body. I like the analogy to the restaurant. Earth is a restaurant, and what are we serving? Well, we're serving up a physical body. That's what you get when you're here. You don't like it? Sorry, that's all we got. So, I think the point is we got to get comfortable with it and we got to get used to it and don't see it as a limitation. You're not limited by anything except what you hold in mind. So if you say you're limited, then you're limited. But the reality is you're not. And you just have to see it that way to know it. Okay, so let me see. I love the analogy there, the restaurant analogy. The Pleiadians say there's nothing else being served up here. You're going to bring new recipes into the Earth restaurant, recipes that periodically have been tested and proven true, but only in pockets here and there. Do we have to? So you think, well, do we have to keep doing things this way? And you decide what this way is, okay? Something's always bothered you. Wow, why do we have to do things this way? Why does society tell me that I have to do things this way? And just whatever it is that's bothering you. And think about it. How would you change it? It takes somebody to start, I mean, that's the new recipe, right? Could you change it? Could you be an example for change? Would you want to? These are questions to ask yourself because you have this free will. What are you doing with it? Are you happy with whatever you have and the way things are going? If so, great. But if not, if that thing's bothering you and you keep saying to yourself, why are we doing things this way? You can be a way shower for others. And people might call you crazy and they might call you a witch or a devil. But you're bringing some light onto the situation. So it's all this whole chapter is coming together in different ways. It's really amazing. So the Pleiadians say, remember, Earth was sealed off eons ago. Earth was created to be one thing and then completely got off track after millions of years of existence. Many of you incarnated here over and over again and got really frustrated because every time you incarnated, you had an intention of doing something, but half the time you forgot what it was. So let's not forget this time what we're doing, right? So easy to forget. I forget all the time, but I'm trying to remember. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, Pleiadians say some of you were able to achieve mastery upon this planet and get yourselves off of it through the ascension process. Others of you clamored that you wanted a time when this quarantine or seclusion from the rest of cosmic society would come to an end. Because of you and the multitudes that are upon this planet and surrounding this planet, the present time period was born. Okay, so I just want to make a comment on the ascension process. Of course, it is a real thing, even though many people may doubt it and say it's not. I'll just point out that Jesus underwent the ascension process, and people who follow Christianity generally believe that, yeah, he did. But the sad part of the story is they don't believe that it's applicable to themselves. They say, oh, but he was the Son of God, of course. But Jesus never said that nobody else could do it. And in fact, one of the great things that he said was, anyone who believes can do the same that I do, and even greater things than that. So think about that. Those are his words. He didn't say, I'm special, I'm the only person who could ever do this. On the contrary, he said, anyone who believes can do this, and even more. So, of course, it's real, and of course, you can do it if you want to do it. And don't doubt yourself, okay? Doubting is the enemy of achieving what you're trying to achieve. So keep that in mind as you entertain some of these novel ideas that are in this chapter. Okay, let me continue. The Pleiadians say one of the most important ultimate realities upon this planet for you as a species to understand, and one of the greatest challenges that you've been faced with, is what it means to die. We can convince you of many things, but it is difficult for us to convince you that you do not have to die. And this time, you do not have to physically leave your body behind here upon this planet. Can you conceive of the idea that you will simply change the vibrational rate of your physical being and take your body with you because you will rearrange the molecular structure? Making the ascension leap and completing the journey here is possible for a multitude of the species upon this planet. Some of you have already ascended off this planet, and you have come back to do it again to show the way. It was a grand journey to get out of here with the ascension process. It took lifetimes of training, one after another, to bring yourself to dedication. It involved not living in the material society and basically living very close to nature to do it. Now, those of you who have done this and are familiar with it have come back. It is your goal to ascend off this planet and to be taken literally up into higher cosmology of motherships. You will ascend into the cities of light and be able to dwell within the other realities that are all around you that simply do not permit your third dimensional eyes to see. You will have completed your task on Earth, and Earth will make its transition. It will be a beautiful jewel in the universe. And you may wish to stay for some years to help with the restructuring and rebuilding of this new Earth. But after a while, you will want to move on to new assignments to transform other worlds. Remember, you are renegades, and you like a very exciting time. So most likely you will leave this planet to others to enjoy and go on to a new assignment. So I think what they're saying is once we create this new Earth and it's very peaceful and tranquil, some of us will say, well, job well done. Let's go find another challenge to work on. Right? So that's interesting. Okay, last paragraph. Pleiadians say ascension is the goal on this planet. There will come a time when that will be the only way people who live on this planet will depart from it. And once you get off this planet, You will go to many other places. You will show yourself and the rest of the species that the body, this thing that seems so solid and uncontrollable, is actually a result of a divine orchestration, and that you, in your consciousness, can do anything you want with it. Anything. So that is Heretics Ahead of Time. And in our modern society with its traditional scientific ideas, the ascension process would be very heretical. But I love it. I think it's amazing. I think this idea is super. And I really like how they say ascension is the goal on this planet. This is what we're looking for. This is what's going to transform humanity, right? To bring more of a marriage between the human nature and the divine nature. So, um, yeah, so that's the chapter. Anybody have any thoughts they want to share on that? On any aspect of the chapter?
This is
Anybody?
a good chapter, easy to understand, and a lot of information and
Yeah.
that we can relate to the process of enlightenment, like and the way for enlightenment and all these challenges and all these ways how we need to learn knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, so many things, even simpler ideas on the concept of stability, and people valuing it and cherishing it and saying, "Oh, I've got to have my stability." I tell you, I've learned that stability isn't as important as we think it is. When I lost my job, I thought, "Oh my," my first thought was, "Oh, what am I going to do? I don't have a job." But I decided that I would trust in
The
the universe.
universe, yes.
I'm accepting the fact that I lost my job. I'm accepting the fact that everything is going to work out and everything is going to be okay. And it went very smoothly for me, even though I was unemployed for about 6 months. I mean, I still had some part-time jobs, so I wasn't fully unemployed, but I was pretty unemployed. And at first, I started worrying because those old ego thoughts kick in saying, "Oh my, you're in a lot of trouble now. You better hurry up and find a job." But then I put that on the shelf. I thought, well, I don't think that's true. It just doesn't feel right to me. And I put that on the shelf and I thought, I'm going to accept everything as it is, but I'm going to work towards finding a new job that I like to do and, that pays a good salary and that's fulfilling. And it eventually all worked out. And even the unemployment period wasn't really bad at all. I didn't have any issues with lack of money. I always seemed to have enough money. Money would always just come at the right time. And I never had any real problems other than I didn't have a job, but it didn't seem to be that much of a deal. And so I learned a lot about that stability isn't as important as we think it is. And it's okay to if you don't like your job, it's okay to look for another job. It's okay to quit your job and take a different job. You don't have to be like married to this job because, hey, it's paying you a great salary, but man, do you hate doing it? You hate going to do that job, but it's paying you that big paycheck, so you got to have it. No, that is such the wrong thing. It's the wrong idea, which I think is one of the messages that this chapter is trying to get through, that find something you really love to do instead of that thing that you're married to that says stability. So there's lots and lots of great things in this chapter. The big one there at the end is ascension, and a lot of people might get questions about it. It always reminds me of the books Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East. Love that series. There's lots of examples of masters in that series who are ascended masters and stories, and it's fun. It's fun to read. So if you're looking for a book that talks more about ascension process, this one, the man who wrote it says it's absolutely 100% true. This was my experience when I went to India in the 1890s. He met the masters, and they were ascended masters. And he was really, really lucky to be accepted into their group for a period of time. And so if you got questions, read Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East
I
for
also
more
felt that
information.
yeah, I also felt that this chapter was about self mastery. Like, where when we begin to master ourselves, that's when, things begin to shift. And you are able, like, when you're able to sort of connect with yourself and feel the other parts of yourself, uh, that's when, you start to bloom and grow. And uh, and then that multi-dimension part that they talked about earlier begins to open, that when you decide not to be just one thing but to become part of everything, that is
Yeah.
that moment of, the true oneness that you have with everybody or with everything begins to start of assimilate in you. So I think it's a lot about self mastery and self growth, and you're losing that one identity that we have. I
Right.
feel that's the message of this chapter.
So yeah, keep in mind self-mastery because this is a phrase that could be definable in one way or in a different way. And I know what you mean by it. But, there's a worldly definition of self-mastery, which is contrary to, I think, your definition of self-mastery. And how do we always remember our oneness? How do we remember the love that we are? And how do we relate to others? I think this is a challenge, right? This is the challenge of self-mastery, is how do I remember the truth of who I am and not fall back on the old ideas that aren't true. So for me, that's self-mastery. How do I always remember the truth? Because it's easy to forget, it's easy to fall back onto old patterns, and then you kind of lose the self-mastery until you wake up kind of again and say, whoa, what am I doing, Um, so I think, Zubia, I think that's maybe a little bit more detail to what you're trying to say. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, yes, and I agree with what you are trying to, how you are interpreting it. And when I meant self mastery was on the terms of, like, when you stop judging, like he's saying, stop judging, right? When you stop intruding, when you stop trying to fix everything. So when you stop doing all of that, that is part of a meditator's self mastery, right? When you
Yes.
begin to be still, and you
Yes.
can stay still
Yes.
and just be, and you don't have to be anybody but a nobody, and you are smiling and shining that you're a nobody. So when you
True.
can shine by being a nobody, then you are, then you're there.
Yeah. Perfect. I love how you said that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Does anyone else have any comments? Anything else we want to talk about on this chapter? Okay, then. Well, I guess if not, I'm inspired to be a heretic. I'm gonna try it out and see how it works for me. I just hope I don't get into too much trouble. We'll see how that goes. All right. I guess we'll close it for this particular session then. And We'll see everybody back here in a week for the next
Oh,
chapter.
I think Jaya has her abstract, right? Do you have your abstract?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you want to read an abstract? Sorry.
Today, I don't know where my bookmark was gone. I tried to find it. That
Okay.
I couldn't find that abstract. Yeah, I tried for some time, but I couldn't find. Maybe I logged in on a different account or something. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have abstract today.
No
Jay's
problem. That's
intuition
totally
already
fine.
knew it, so he was closing the session.
Well, yeah, catch me before we stop the session. If there's something important to say, I'm
Yeah.
going to close it too fast. If we got other things to
No, no,
talk.
no. Yeah, I didn't have. I found something, but that abstract I didn't like it. But I'm going to go back to the other abstracts, which are like very much detailed, and I like them. So by next week, I will be able to find it. I don't know where my bookmark is gone.
All right. Well, if you find it and you want to read it next week, we can do that.
Mhm.
Sounds good. All right.
Right, everybody. See you next week.
Yeah, see you. Good night.